Starting off with our first tip, it's all about the greetings in Japan. Now, greetings in Japan are more than just a simple hello. They are a form of showing respect and acknowledging the other person's presence. And what's the most common form of greeting? You guessed it, it's the bow. It's not just a nod of the head, but a full body movement. The deeper the bow, the more respect you're showing. The trick is to keep your back straight, your hands at your sides and bend from the waist. But that's not all. Business cards or mishi hold a significant place in Japanese culture. When receiving a business card, don't just pocket it. Take a moment to read it, then carefully store it away. This shows respect towards the individual and their profession. So, remember to bow and handle business cards with care. It's more than just a greeting, it's a sign of respect. Next up, we delve into the art of chopsticks. A staple in Japanese dining, mastering chopsticks is a skill that speaks volumes about your respect for this beautiful culture. Now, there are a few do's and don'ts you'll want to keep in mind. Do hold your chopsticks towards their end, not in the middle or the front third. This gives you better control and balance. Don't use them to point at people or things. It's considered rude. And whatever you do, never cross your chopsticks on the table. It's a sign of death. But the most common mistake travelers make? Sticking chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice. This is a big no-no, as it's a practice reserved for funerals. It's seen as a bad omen and can be quite offensive. So when in Japan, wield those chopsticks like a pro, but remember, no sticking them upright in your rice. We've covered quite a few customs already. How about you? Do you agree or disagree with these customs? This is where we pause for a moment, allowing you time to mull over the information we've just shared. Are these customs surprising? Perhaps they're vastly different from those of your own culture. Or maybe you find them intriguing and wish to adopt them yourself. It's always a fascinating exercise to compare and contrast our own customs with those of other cultures. It's a window into a world that's different from our own, yet equally rich and vibrant. So we encourage you to share your thoughts. Are these Japanese customs something you find agreeable? Or are there aspects you find hard to comprehend? Feel free to voice your thoughts, your agreements, your disagreements, and everything in between in the comments section. After all, it's through sharing that we learn and grow. Whether you agree or disagree, these customs are an integral part of Japanese culture. Moving on, let's chat about tipping in Japan. Now, if you're coming from a culture where tipping is customary, you might find this a bit surprising. In Japan, tipping isn't the norm. It's not expected at restaurants, taxis, or hotels. In fact, it can sometimes be considered disrespectful. The Japanese culture prides itself on providing excellent service as a standard, not for an extra fee. It's part of their ethos of omotenashi, or wholeheartedly looking after guests. Here, gratuity is built into the price, and any additional money can be seen as a suggestion that the service wasn't good enough to begin with. It can create an awkward situation and potentially embarrass the recipient. So while you may have the best intentions to show appreciation, remember this important cultural difference. So hold on to those extra yens, because tipping isn't necessary in Japan. Next, we delve into the importance of silence in Japan. Now, you might be wondering why a nation would place such a high value on quietness. Well, in Japan, silence is deeply rooted in cultural norms and societal expectations. A quiet environment fosters tranquility and respect for others, particularly in public spaces. Imagine hopping on a train or bus. Instead of the usual clamor and chatter, you're greeted by a soothing hush, the soft hum of wheels on tracks, or the faint rustle of pages turning. In Japan, maintaining silence on public transportation isn't just a polite suggestion, it's an unspoken rule. This is not to say that conversations are forbidden, but they are typically carried out in hushed tones, so as not to disturb the peace. And this isn't limited to public transportation. Whether you're in a library, a restaurant, or even walking down a bustling city street, respecting the quiet is a way of showing consideration for others. Remember, when in Japan, silence is golden. If you're finding these tips useful, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Your support is the fuel that drives us to explore more corners of the globe, to dig deeper into the cultures we encounter, and to share these invaluable insights with you. Every like, every subscription, and every ring of the bell, they're not just clicks or taps on your screen. They're gestures of encouragement, affirmations that we're on the right track, and signals that you want more. So why not join our growing community of travel enthusiasts? Be part of this exciting journey of discovery. And remember, when you hit that notification bell, you'll be the first to know when we drop another treasure trove of travel tips. Your next adventure could be just a notification away. And now, back to our travel tips. Now let's step into the world of Japanese shoe etiquette. Walking into a Japanese home with your shoes on? A big no-no. The same applies to certain types of restaurants and temples. You see, in Japan, cleanliness is paramount, and shoes are seen as dirty as they touch the ground. So, when you see a row of neatly lined shoes at the entrance, that's your cue to doff your footwear. But the shoe etiquette doesn't stop there. You might notice a pair of slippers by the bathroom door. They're aptly named bathroom slippers and are meant to be worn only in the bathroom. Remember to switch back to your indoor shoes before you step out again. It's a small detail, yet one that's easily overlooked by visitors. In Japan, every step you take is a reflection of your respect for their customs. So be mindful of where you step in Japan. Shoe etiquette is a big deal. Next, let's talk about the number 4 in Japan. Now you may wonder, what's so special about a number? Well, in Japan, the number 4, or shi in Japanese, shares the same pronunciation as the word for death. As a result, it's often associated with bad luck, much like the number 13 in some Western cultures. This superstition is so deeply ingrained in the culture that you'll often find buildings in Japan without a 4th floor. Much like hotels in the US might skip the 13th. Also, gifts are rarely given in sets of 4, and hospital rooms often avoid using the number 4. So if you're in Japan and you're handed a remote to choose your karaoke song or the elevator buttons to select your floor, you might want to think twice before pressing 4. In Japan, it's not just a number, it's a superstition, so maybe skip the 4th floor. Lastly, we're going to talk about phone etiquette in Japan. In many countries, making personal calls in public might be a common sight. However, in Japan, it's a different story. It's considered impolite to make personal calls in public places. Now, you may wonder, why is this so? Well, it's all about respect for the shared space. Japanese culture values the concept of wa, which translates to harmony. This means avoiding any actions that could disrupt the peaceful atmosphere of a public space, such as a train carriage or a park. The sound of a personal phone call can be seen as an intrusion into that space. So if your phone rings while you're out and about, it's best to silence it and return the call later when you're in a private place. Remember, when in Japan, keep those personal calls private. Well, that brings us to the end of our journey through Japanese customs. We've navigated the intricacies of proper greetings, learned the art of handling chopsticks, and discovered why tipping isn't customary in Japan. We've also explored the importance of being quiet, delved into shoe etiquette, and found out why the number 4 is best avoided. And let's not forget about the no personal calls in public rule. It's been quite an adventure, hasn't it? And remember, these are not just rules, but a testament to the rich culture and tradition of Japan. So the next time you're exploring the land of the rising sun, keep these points in mind. And yes, we would love to hear what you think. Got any interesting stories or experiences related to these customs? Do share. Remember, when traveling, it's all about embracing the local culture. Happy travels, and we'll see you in the next video.